looking at the Sunday Times, but it's not just the Sunday Times. Of course, a lot of the newspapers actually are covering this, and quite rightly so. Salman Rushdie, who was attacked last Friday morning as he was just about to speak at in front of an audience in New York City, and an Islamist approached him. Exactly how he got so close, because I'm told by reports that his face was covered. So he managed to get really close to him and stabbed him around 15 times, including in the abdomen, the neck and the eye. It looks like he's lost his eye. The good news this morning, if you can say some good news, is that he's off the ventilator, according to news reports coming through this morning as well. He looks like he may, as I said, lost his eye. But this is a typical Islamist who refuses to accept that any type of criticism against a religion is allowed to be. Now, we have criticisms against Judaism and Christianity and Catholicism and Hinduism, and this is all about Salman Rushdie writing a book in 1988 called The Satanic Verses. At the exact time that it came out, the original Ayatollah Khomeini from Tehran in Iran issued a fatwa, which was to kill him, to destroy him. The British government at the time wasn't doing initially that much, even though he was a British citizen, originally born in India, British citizen. I didn't realise he actually got American citizenship in 2016, and in the last few years felt a little bit like John Lennon.
Yeah, he's a dual citizen, isn't he, of the UK and the US?
Yeah.
And I think of India as well, if I'm not mistaken.
Maybe you're right.
No, he doesn't have Indian citizenship. He does have British and American citizenship.
It's definitely those two.
Yeah, he definitely does.
It reminds me very much of John Lennon, because in his later years, well, he was only, 30 years old or something, or 30, in 1980, he felt, just before he was attacked and killed himself, he was able to walk the streets. So this is exactly what Salman Rushdie has been saying, and yet he's attacked. Now, this comes, if I may just say, this is not a lone wolf attack. No. This is not just an individual. This has been sanctioned by the government of Iran, and this fatwa has never been lifted. And as a result, Rishi Sunak is actually saying that perhaps the Iranian Revolutionary Guards should also be added to the list of terrorist organizations in this country. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, Liz Truss may have hinted at something like this several weeks ago.
I mean, just looking back, you said the fatwa was issued in 1989. My understanding was in 1998 the Iranian government withdrew support for that. But then when the new leader came in 2005, I think it was then re-implemented. But you're right, and also what we were talking about this yesterday. I found it extraordinary that the state broadcaster welcomed the news. We found out that many politicians have welcomed the news, and of course the papers over there are saying Satan on the way to hell. This is unacceptable.
And have you seen those cartoons as well in some of those papers? Just to give you a little bit of background over here, the Iranian Revolution took place in 1979. So this was the first exposure that the West certainly had to radical Islam. It came from the Shiite side as opposed to Sunni side. And this actually made the Sunnis to step up their act to get world publicity. So in the 80s, of course, Al-Qaeda was created and led by Osama bin Laden. He attacked in the Twin Towers in 1994. There was bombs placed under the building at that point because they were trying to compete with Shia Islam at that particular point as well. If I remember, around 4 people were killed from the Twin Towers attack in 1994. Of course, they went back and almost 3,000 people were killed. But this is the fight between radical Islam, between Shiite and Sunni. Now, the Shiite and also Sunni is backing this, but Shiite was the one who originally issued this fatwa. And you're right in to say that it was lifted, but that was because of Western pressure. And then they found a way to put it back in again.
So what happens from here? I mean, clearly we cannot stand by. I mean, I know this happened on American soil, but this is unacceptable. You cannot go around doing this.
And that's exactly what Nikki Haley is saying as well, and other Republican members, Congress, who are saying that the president has to do something about this. Exactly what? It's really difficult, because on the one hand, you can argue that this was a lone wolf attack, but on the other hand, sanctioned by Iran. But we have to remember that Iran, in the wider geopolitical field, Iran is the country which is actively building nuclear weapons today.
And of course, surely we should sanction Iran, no?
Well, it has been sanctioned. The Americans...
But harder.
Well, I think it calls into question the Iran nuclear deal.
Well, it does.
Should you really be paying Iran to just about keep their nuclear arms capacity at bay. And then eventually in a few years, they will probably have enough capacity. They don't need the nuclear Iran deal. Which is one of the things I think I saw an interview with Benjamin Netanyahu, which he was talking about. We have to be against this deal. But I think the wider question is about state-funded terrorism, because that's effectively what this is. I mean, we talk about this just being a lone wolf, but that fatwa effectively gave license to all the radical Islamists to carry this out. It could have been anyone.
I'm afraid I have to pause you there, Esther and